Hi, and welcome to Stress Management, Exploring the Mind-Body Connection. In this course, the student will learn about the benefits of sunlight, oxygen, movement, and endorphins on mood. How exercise can help mitigate depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, postpartum depression, even eating disorders and addiction. And common mental health issues in the average population and their frequency. So let's get started. When most people think about stress, they think of it as the unrelenting urge to choke the life out of some jerk who desperately deserves it. Well, that is one type of stress, but there are lots of other types of stress. Some are good and some are bad. Let's take a look at them. Our new definition of stress: it is anything that requires energy. When you think of stress in physics and engineering, it's any sort of force on something. Okay, so let's talk about sources of good stress. Functions of living, including breathing, that's always a good thing to do. Digestion, your heartbeat, these are things that go on and use energy even if you don't get off your couch or out of bed. But they use energy, which means they're putting a stress of some sort on your body. You have to have food, even if you're on bed rest, because your body is still working. It's still under some stress or some motivation to keep going. Other sources of good stress include thinking. You know how sometimes when you think too hard, you smell smoke? No, just kidding. Your immune response. This is the biggie. This is the biggie, because when we stop taking care of ourselves and we stop providing the building blocks for immunity, and we stop getting enough rest, guess what? We get sick. Which, when you think about it, is really kind of cool, because your body says, you need to rest. You're tired, you need to rest. You push on through, and it says, hello, you need to rest, and you need to eat something besides McDonald's. You need to rest. And it keeps going, and keeps going, and keeps going, and finally, your body gives in, or I guess takes over, and says, all right, you won't rest on your own? I'm going to put you flat on your butt in bed, and you get sick. When I was in college, it never failed. At the end of finals week, every single semester, we would have, all these finals for 3 or 4 days, wouldn't sleep, cramming, all that kind of stuff, and then I would be flat out with strep throat. It was like clockwork. Why? Because I didn't take care of myself. Other sources of good stress include exercise. Especially when you're in a high-stress profession, your body is constantly secreting hormones to help you fight or flee. And if you're not using up those hormones and you're not using up that energy that is released so you can fight or flee, you've got to burn it up somehow. Exercise has tons of other benefits that we'll get to later. And when I say exercise, I don't mean necessarily going to the gym. There are fun things you can do for exercise. So why don't you ponder that for a few minutes while we move on. And doing things that make you happy. It takes energy. It takes energy to do anything, to get up off the couch. It takes energy to sit on the couch. But if you do things that make you happy, it sort of recharges your body. So, your first activity, make a list, and if you have the ability to pause this presentation, do it now. Make a list of all 10 things that make you happy. Now, it can be anything, I'll give you some examples of mine because mine are a little quirky. Surprise. I absolutely love squirrels. I love watching them eat peanuts. I love squirrels. We went one day to downtown Washington, D.C. Never been there before. And my whole family was with me, and they were interested in seeing the monuments and this and that. And that was all well and good. I was off chasing the little black squirrels all around. They were the cutest thing I've ever seen. So it doesn't take a whole lot. We don't have to have huge things like Ferraris and big houses to make us happy. Rainbows make me happy. Bunny rabbits make me happy. Pretty much anything that's furry with 4 legs makes me happy. There are a lot of things that I can do playing with my kids. Watching a comedy on television, there are a variety of things that I can do to make myself happy. I don't have to rely on somebody else to do it for me, because guess what? They're not going to. You can choose to make yourself happy. All right. So once you've made that list of 10 things that make you happy, I want you to identify a couple of things that each of the following people like or that make them happy. Your spouse or your significant other. What makes him or her happy? Your parents, your children, and your partner if you ride with somebody or work with them on a daily or very close basis. Okay, so you've completed your lists and you're asking, why do I need to make this list? I already know what makes me happy. Well, that may be true, but when you're stressed, when you're depressed, when you're angry, you can't think of the things that make you happy. So it's up to you to keep this list handy. So when you're having a bad day, you can say, what can I do? This also helps you share the things that make you happy with those around you. If you share what makes you happy, then they can better accommodate if they know what you want to do. Because we all care. Believe it or not, we all care. Why do I care about what others like? Well, you don't have to, but it's going to make your life a lot easier because when you're around people who are stressed, it's going to bleed off on you. When you're around people who are happy, it's going to bleed off on you. So let's try to make everybody around us happy. Random acts of kindness can go a long way. It doesn't have to be huge. Believe it or not, though, most people sort of miss the boat on this one. Why? Because we do things for other people that we want them to do for us. Give you an example. I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love energy. I love just being in an environment where there's a lot of different ideas flowing and different people talking about different things. My husband, not so much. He would rather be in a smaller group. When we first got together, I always thought that when it came to birthday time or anniversary time or any other time for celebration, a big party was called for. That's not what he wanted. That's what I wanted. What he wanted was a couple of people to come in and sit down and have fun. He likes to travel. I don't like to travel. Again, differences. Things that make him happy, going around sightseeing, may not make me happy, or we could compromise. It may not be something that I would typically do, but I may do it in order to be kind or to, help make him happy. So what is distress? It's the anger, fight, or fear flight reaction. In the academy, you probably learned about the fight or flight reaction. So let's think about those. When we fight, we're angry. We generally don't say, hey, how you doing, Joe? And smack him in the face. Well, without getting committed at least. But when we're fearful, we flee. We're trying to protect ourselves. The purpose is to protect and preserve the organism. Yes, you're an organism. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. So, how common is stress? Distress, that is. In the average person, 15 situations per day cause distress. That's way too many. That is way too many because we have lost a lot of things and a lot of coping skills that help us say, that's not worth my energy. Remember I said you have a certain amount of energy. And once it's gone, you've got to start borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. I don't know who Peter and Paul are, but hopefully I can borrow from Peter. I digress. 6 basic stressors. Fear of death. In law enforcement, you may face this quite a bit. You may face situations where you could be killed. You could be in danger. It's a stressor. For some, it's also an adrenaline rush, but it's a stressor. Loss of control. Most cops that I've known are just a little bit on the control freak side. And when they're out of control, it causes stress. It causes anxiety. A lot of times there's a good reason. If you go into a situation that's volatile, you may not be in control of the complete situation. You don't know what's going to happen next. So yeah, fear, fight, flight, you need to be on your game in order to protect yourself. It's not unreasonable to be angry or fearful. What can be unreasonable is what we do with it. The unknown. You don't know who's behind that door. You don't know what your boss is calling you into his office for. You don't know what your wife wanted when she texted you 17 times. Rejection. None of us like rejection. Some people handle it better than others and just go, their loss. Other people wear their heart on their sleeve and it cuts right to their core. They're like, well, why don't they like me? Failure goes with being a control freak. We don't like to fail. I don't like to fail. Most people don't like to fail. They say that if you haven't failed, you haven't tried. That means that if you haven't failed, you haven't tried to push yourself beyond that envelope of safety. Yeah, it's all well and good. I still don't like to fail. But I like to try. Isolation. More so for some than others. Not everybody minds being by themselves a lot. But these are your basic stressors. And for some people, 2 or 3 are the ones that really bring out those 15 situations per day. For other people, it's all of them. You need to figure out which stressors you encounter on a daily basis and what you're going to do with them. You're going to encounter them. You got to figure out what to do with them or they will eat you alive. It's often less about the particular stressor and more about what you do with it that causes you to feel stressed out. In my job, I do a lot of customer service stuff. And there are times, believe it or not, when people can be a little bit cranky and a little bit irritable. Now, I can either take that and take it personally and get stressed out about it and wonder why it is they don't like something or why they're being unreasonable. Or I can say, yep, they're having a bad day, and let it go. If I get upset, it does absolutely no good because it doesn't change them. The fact of the matter is, there are certain things that you cannot change. So holding on to them and nurturing them is just a waste of energy. I keep threatening. I've threatened for about 10 years and I just haven't found the right kitty cat yet. But I keep threatening to get a cat and name it Grudge. That way when I'm having a bad day, I can go hold my kitty and I can nurture Grudge. But I see Grudge as being this big, long-haired, fluffy, gray kitty cat. And one of those just hasn't come into my life yet that actually wanted to be held. So I digress. Again, an imbalance in energy expenditure can cause you also to feel stressed out. Think about the last time you were sick, or you didn't have enough sleep because your baby was up every 2 or 3 hours throughout the night. The next day, most everything you did probably felt like it took 10 times more energy. Your attitude probably was not your same chipper self as usual. This is an energy imbalance. You used more energy taking care of your baby. You used less energy recharging your reserves. So now you've got an imbalance and you're like, oh, I've got to get to sleep. And, you know, Starbucks coursing through your veins is not a substitute for good rest. And it's important to remember that time spent doing an activity is not the same as the energy required. When I teach, you know, I've said before, I love being in groups. I love teaching. I love doing psychotherapeutic groups. I love doing community college. I love doing university classes. I just love teaching because the students always have interesting questions. They always keep me thinking. There's just a lot of different stuff going on as opposed to sitting down in individual therapy. Individual therapy takes 10 times more energy for me than teaching. And I can't tell you exactly why, but I can tell you I can teach all day long and be tired at the end of the day, but still have energy to do a bunch of stuff. If I do 8 hours of therapy, I'm toast. But I know that. So I know that on the days that I'm seeing patients all day long, I shouldn't plan on doing a whole lot that evening because I'm going to be a vegetable. So, 6 basic stressors. Let's look at those in a little bit more depth. The fear of death stresses most people out. That's true. If you have had experiences where you were threatened with or experienced a situation that could cause death or severe bodily injury, you may have post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, not everybody who has horrific experiences develops PTSD. But if you've got PTSD, then anytime that you feel your safety is threatened, it may be more stressful for you. It also may trigger some flashbacks and some other stuff. It's important to be aware of this so you understand where all this is coming from. Loss of control in the unknown is really prominent as far as being a stressor for people who are type A or highly structured. I'm both. I am an extremely structured person. I like to know that at 2 o'clock this is going to happen. At 4 o'clock this is going to happen. I don't like surprises, and I like to make sure that I'm being as efficient and effective as possible. Not everybody likes that. Some people would lose their mind if they had to adhere to a stringent structure all the time. Loss of control in the unknown is also an issue for people who've been primary or secondary victims of crime or of really bad situations. Now, a primary victim, of course, is somebody who experienced some sort of trauma themselves, or a secondary victim is somebody who watched the trauma. In domestic violence, children are often secondary victims. They see mommy and daddy fighting, but they are out of control. They are powerless to stop what's going on. So in the future, when they feel a loss of control or don't know what to expect, they get very antsy because they don't know if they can handle it. Rejection and failure is really an issue for people who've only been loved for what they do. They don't love themselves. They're looking for other people to say, "You're okay. You deserve to breathe the air today." If you feel good about yourself and you feel like you're all that in a bag of chips, well, awesome. Rejection and failure probably won't bother you too much, because when somebody does something that feels rejecting, you may say, your loss. When you fail at something, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you try again. Isolation. Again, people who need others to validate that they're okay. Isolation usually bothers people who don't have a lot of friends, who have borrowed from that social support bank so much and taken all that energy and put it into every other area of their life that they don't have significant others around anymore. So yeah, they're isolated. And it stinks to be isolated. So, pretty little graph here. Ideally, if you've got a balanced lifestyle, and you see this isn't perfectly balanced, but it's as close as we're probably going to get. Existing, breathing, digestion, immunity, all that other stuff that goes on behind the scenes, takes about 25% of our energy. Work takes about 30%. Let's just face reality about how much time we spend in a 24-hour day at work. It probably is a little bit more than 30%, but an 8-hour day is 1/3, so we'll go with 1/3 for right now. Spending time with friends and family, 20%. Doing things that make me happy, I think that's about 15%. And health-related behaviors, it's about 10%, maybe 15%. So there's balance here. No one area is getting the lion's share of everything. So let's look at what the graph looks like for somebody who doesn't have a balanced lifestyle. Yeah, that's about right. So existing, some of the energy is borrowed from your immune response and everything else because you don't have enough hours left in the day. So only 20% is for existing. and your body has to do what it can in the limited amount of energy it's allotted. Work, 50%. Think about how much time you spend at work, thinking about work, what's the word I'm looking for? Grumbling about work, worrying about work. It takes up a lot of time. Not to mention traveling back and forth to work. And if you have a second job, there you go. Work can take up an inordinate amount of time if you allow it to. So where does that energy come from? Spending time with family and friends. It's just a sliver now. Doing things that make me happy. 5%. Health-related behaviors. 8%. Being angry and holding on to resentments. 25%. Why? Think about it. When all you do is get up, go to work, come home, go to sleep, and get up and go to work the next day, are you really in the best mood? Probably not. When you're at work, theoretically, you're spending time focused on work, so you're not engaging and talking to others who can help mitigate your stress. Social support is vital for mitigating stress. You don't want work to take over your life. I've had people who've come and talked to me who even dream about work. They have nightmares about work. They wake up in a cold sweat about work. That's taking over their life. One thing I want you to get from this is how much energy anger and resentment take if you let those 15 or so situations really get to you and take up a significant portion of your day. Think about it this way. 15 situations, you're awake for 16 hours. That means one stressor every hour. If you let that bother you for 10 or 15 minutes each hour, you're losing a whole lot of time to something you probably don't have a lot of control over. So what do we do about it? Well, first, you have to understand yourself. Another activity. Draw a large circle on a piece of paper. Since I'm one of those people who tends to be a little OCD sometimes, all the time, if you take a cereal bowl and turn it upside down, you can draw a nice, even circle with no little bumps if you don't happen to have a compass handy. So, anyway, my little quirk. This is going to be the foundation of your pie chart. Mark off 25% of it for the energy used to exist. And then for the next week, identify everything you do and each time you get angry or irritated. Remember, everything you do takes energy. Going to the gym, that's good energy. Well, we're going to assume it is. Fighting with your spouse, that's bad energy. Playing with your kids, playing with the dog, cleaning out the garage, good energy. Yeah, cleaning out the garage is good energy. When you're finished at the end of the week, look at your list and figure out how many of those things that you did over the past week were things that you didn't want to do, things that you grumbled about, things that were distressful. Of that list, which things did you give more energy than they deserved? There are some things that you just gotta do, and getting upset about it doesn't do a whole lot of good. So you might as well try to make it fun. Cleaning out the garage is an example for some people. That's one of those things that you have to do. So is it worth grumbling about it and making it harder and spinning your wheels? Or just do it and get it done? Do you overspend your energy and borrow from the existence bank? Again, remember, a lot of us give up things like eating well and taking care of ourselves and getting good sleep in order to do other stuff, usually other more stressful stuff. Balance is essential. Abraham Maslow, and that's not important for you to remember, but Abraham Maslow created a pyramid foundation were your biological needs. Food, water, shelter. You know, we're not animals, so we don't need a different place to raise young. So food, water, and shelter you need to have. If you are hungry, thirsty, sick, and homeless, you're not going to care about the rest of it. So you need to make sure that you get those foundation needs met. And then you need to attend to your mental and physical safety. Now, most of you are grumbling and probably turning in your chairs right now going, nothing can hurt me. Well, yes, it can. When you think about physical safety, it's not just what's around you. It's being able to relax in your environment and not constantly be looking around, wondering what's coming next. My grandfather was a cop, would never sit with his back to the door. My husband was a cop, hates to sit with his back to the door. These are all physical safety things that are ingrained in a lot of people who work in emergency services. Okay, so you need to have a place that you can relax. And you need to have a place where people are nice. And that includes you. You're not beating yourself up for this little mistake or that little mistake. You're not playing tapes that are critical all the time. And this is the big thing that I find with most of my patients. It's not what other people say and do to them. It's the tapes they play over and over and over in their head that tell them they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, and nobody likes them. Think back to last week and answer yes if you did the behavior 5 or more days last week, or no if you did not. So, okay, we're thinking back to last week. I got enough quality sleep 5 or more days last week. I ate at least 3 nutritious meals each day 5 or more days last week. I exercised 5 or more days last week. I did something that made me happy 5 or more days last week. I feel like Jeff Foxworthy here. I was kind to myself and others even when mistakes were made 5 or more days last week. I spent quality time with friends or family 5 or more days last week. And I chose my battles wisely 5 or more days last week. If you answered yes to all of those, you've passed the class. Wonderful. Bye-bye. If you didn't, then there are some areas that you can improve. Our bodies need sleep. In the 80s, they tried to convince us that we could take these little 20-minute power naps here and there and not sleep. It doesn't work. We need sleep. We need time for our body to not have to divert energy to anything else but rebuilding and rejuvenating. Nutritious meals. Your body can't build without building blocks. So if everything you eat is some variation of white or brown, probably not eating nutritiously. You don't need to be a fanatic about it. You don't even need to, sorry to any dietitians out there, follow the food pyramid. Just try to eat colorfully. If you have 3 colors on your plate at every meal, you're probably doing pretty well as far as nutrition goes. And yellow and white don't really count as 2 different colors, but 3 colors. Exercise. There are fun ways to exercise. Do things that make you happy. We already made the list of the things that make you happy, so now do them. Do them. Try doing one every day. When you make a mistake, roll with it. It happens. Everybody makes mistakes. Let it go. Learn from it and move on. If you go home and you lash yourself with a wet noodle 50 times, it doesn't make the mistake go away and it doesn't make you learn anything new. It just punishes you, and that's not real functional. Quality time with friends and family doesn't have to be 3 hours. It can be having a good chat with your best friend on the phone, or calling your mother to check in and see how things are doing. 5 minutes here and there. It doesn't have to be huge. Checking in with your kids to see how their day went at school. And choosing your battles wisely. In recovery, we have a saying, Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'll give you a hint right here. You can't change other people. The only thing you can change is yourself and your own reactions. So if your battle involves trying to change someone, getting your wife to change so that she will, getting your best friend to change so that she will, not going to happen. Choose your battles wisely, otherwise you're just throwing energy out the door. Things are more likely to cause you distress if they make you feel vulnerable, if they trigger one of your 6 basic fears, remember that we talked about those quite a bit already, or if your energy reserves for dealing with life are already depleted. If you go into a stressful situation and you're already run down, it's probably going to be a lot more stressful. Think about the last time you were either sick, getting over being sick, or coming off a midnight shift rotation. My husband, when he was on midnight shifts, would often switch on his days off to be awake during the day so he was awake with the family, which was good. I mean, we appreciated it. However, by the end of a month of doing this, he had this sort of olive green pallor to his face. And I could always tell when he was getting just completely run down and exhausted because his body didn't know when it was time to sleep or when it was time to eat or when it was time to be awake. So it's really hard on your body. The same thing is sort of jet lag. And they have done studies that have likened coming off midnight shift and made it akin to being jet lagged for a week. It takes a while. So what do? We talked about all the problems, talked about some different ways of approaching things. Now we got to get you some. It's easy to remember, especially if you were in the Marines. Sunlight. Sunlight is vital. That doesn't mean going out and baking yourself and getting skin cancer. That means not staying cooped up in a basement room with no windows 24 hours a day. Oxygen. Well, that's self-explanatory. Movement, always helpful. I never realized until I was on bed rest that sitting on your butt and not moving could make you tired, more tired even, than getting up and moving around. And endorphins, those are your feel-good chemicals. We all love those. If you're fully charged, then it's going to be easier to deal with life and stupid people. Sunlight gives you vitamin D. It strengthens your bones. It helps set your circadian rhythms. One of the things, if you're on a midnight shift and you can get home and get into bed before the sun starts coming up, it's going to help you a whole lot. As soon as the sun starts coming up, your body says, oh, it's daylight, I'm supposed to be awake. And then you're trying to convince yourself to go to sleep, and it doesn't work as well. An improved mood. They've done studies. Lots of studies. There's lots of people who do nothing but studies. But that's where seasonal affective disorder got discovered, if you will. If we don't have enough sunlight, our mood tends to go down. We tend to get grumpier. We tend to get more depressed. So, how do you get sunlight? Well, go outside. It's an easy thing to do. And again, you can sit on your screen porch and drink your coffee, or you can go out on the terrace at work and have your lunch. But go outside. Try to let your body know that it's sunlight outside. You know, in the winter, one place I used to work, I had an internal office. So I was right in the core of the building. And I would get to work, I would go in my office, and I would stay there until work was over, and I would leave work. When I got there, it was dark. When I left, it was dark. It seemed like it was always dark. Not really good on your mood. Because then, again, your body is going, am I supposed to be awake? Am I supposed to be asleep? Can't really tell what time it is. You can also use sunlight spectrum bulbs. It helps. It's not as good as the real thing, but it does help. There are some people who say that light machines do wonders. Never tried it, don't know, make your own judgment. 20 minutes a day is all you have to have. But if you get 20 minutes of bright light a day, you'll be amazed at how much it helps improve your mood and helps your body figure out what time it is. Oxygen. Did you know that most people yawn? Not because they're tired, but because they're not getting enough oxygen. As Americans, for certain, we tend to breathe through our chest. We don't breathe through our belly anymore. So we breathe shallowly, which means we're not getting as much oxygen in. We start feeling tired and sluggish because we're not getting oxygen in. So if you start taking deep breaths and keeping yourself so you're breathing and moving around, you're going to have increased energy, increased blood flow. It'll help you relax. Think about when you were little and you'd get upset and your mom said, count to 10. Take a few deep breaths. Well, usually I'd take 4 or 5 deep breaths really, really fast in a row, just kind of like a bull that's getting ready to charge and feel lightheaded. And I'd say, see, it didn't work. But the premise actually works. If you breathe in and you let it out, it can help release stress and tension. And it gives you a clearer head. When you're not oxygen deprived, you can think better. Imagine that. Movement. Too little or too much. Yes, it is possible to work out too much, SWAT guys. You don't want to burn your body out. When you're not getting the right amount of movement, you can feel tired. Tired because you're not getting enough movement, or tired because your body's trying to repair all that muscle tissue and you're not giving it a chance. Depression. Depression kind of sets on after you start feeling tired and lethargic and sluggish. Aches and stiffness. Because you're not allowing enough recovery time, or because you're not moving at all. It's amazing how achy you can get if you don't move around very much. Mostly because if you're not moving around very much, it means you probably don't usually have very good posture and you carry all your stress in your neck and your back. Exercise helps release some of that. Weight problems. Don't move, don't burn calories, you can gain weight. Muscular atrophy. Even if you exercise too much. Yes, because the muscle starts breaking down, it goes, I give up. I can't repair fast enough. Generally, we see this in people who don't work out enough, though. They start to get these little scrawny arms and legs. And sleep problems. Your body's not tired. Your brain might be tired, but your body's going, okay, George, let's go. What are we going to do? You need to get movement in there. Benefits. It increases your blood flow. It strengthens your muscles and bones. It improves your sleep, reduces aches and pains, improves your weight and your self-esteem, because when you're sleeping better and you're looking better, you feel like you're all that and more. It helps eliminate toxins through sweat. It may relieve constipation and burns up fatty acids released from stress during the day. When your body releases cortisol, so you can take that extended fight or flight, it's one of those stress chemicals. That causes your liver to release fatty acids, because we know that fat is a very, very dense source of energy. But if you don't use it, then all those little fat globules just kind of float around until they settle out somewhere in your arteries. That's bad. So burn up those fatty acids. They're going around your body because your body thinks it needs it. Okay, let's talk about types of movement. Fitness classes, of course. Working out. Any kind of workout regime you like, I don't care. Spinning, bike riding, running, jogging, walking, with your spouse, without your spouse, with your dog, without your dog. You know, if you're one of those people who's a diehard Cesar Millan fan, then you know your dog needs exercise, so, you know, walk the dog. And it's also a conversation starter. shall we say, especially if you've got a cute puppy dog. Yard work. It doesn't include using the riding lawnmower. I love my riding lawnmower, but that's not exercise. That's just 2 or 3 hours where I don't have to hear anybody. Dancing. Can be dancing at a club or dancing by yourself. It doesn't matter. Playing tag or hot potato with your kids. Xbox Connect is excellent. You can do it inside even if it's bad weather. Golf, if you walk all 18 holes, or sex, but, well, you have to do it for a little while in order for it to count as exercise, but I digress. Okay, so let's talk about endorphins and other feel-good chemicals. These are naturally occurring happy chemicals. Relaxation decreases the amount of cortisol. Remember I talked about that really ugly stress hormone? The more you relax, the less of it is excreted. That's wonderful. So, figure out how to relax. Easier said than done. Endorphins can be released by running or working out really hard. We've all heard of a runner's high. Sex. See, so you can get exercise and endorphins knocked out all at once. Hard belly laugh. Have you ever watched a little kid laugh hysterically over nothing? There was one little kid on America's Funniest Videos that thought tearing paper was just hilarious. And I guess he was probably 13, 14 months old. And he just laughed and laughed and laughed. He was releasing endorphins. They've done studies that have shown that petting an animal releases relaxation chemicals. Massage. And believe it or not, some research has indicated that spicy foods releases endorphins, because endorphins are put out to sort of numb pain. And when you eat spicy foods, in theory, the brain goes, ooh, throat's on fire. We need to send out some stuff to make the pain go away. So, these are a variety of ways that you can release endorphins, but you need to find the happy medium. You don't want to spend all day chasing your endorphin rush. Now, the pesky irritants. Those 15 or 50 things that come up during the day that cause you distress. You can either fix it or forget it. Ask yourself, is it worth the energy? Or at least, is it worth this much energy? Just about everything that happens when you have a reaction, your body's saying fight or flee, there's a threat here. So you need to do something about it. Now you can evaluate it and go, oh, that's stupid to get upset about. Or you can do something about it. Ask yourself, will it matter 6 months from now? Some things people are not going to remember 6 months from now. Only you. And you're the one that's going to still be holding yourself hostage. And finally, can you do anything about it? If it's not fixable, then you've got to figure out how to accept it. If you can do something about it, is the effort required to fix it worth your energy? There are lots of things that we think about that we could fix if we really wanted to, but it's just not worth the effort. It doesn't mean that much to us. Your energy is precious, so figure out whether it's worth your energy. And if you don't fix it, then forget it. Let it go. It's not worth your energy, so it's not worth renting space in your head. In summary, proper self-care can give you a good defense against stress. It can create a situation in which your body is ready and recharged and able to handle anything. Sunlight and exercise can both help improve sleep. Oxygen helps improve energy levels, and combat breathing can help lower your heart rate after a stressful event. We didn't really talk about that in the PowerPoint, but combat breathing is when you breathe in, you hold for a count of 4, and then you slowly exhale. When your breathing slows down, your body goes, not breathing so fast, so I guess the heart doesn't need to beat as fast. And everything gets in sync. Movement and exercise burn up excess fatty acids that are floating around in the bloodstream from too much stress. Endorphins and relaxation reduce the amount of cortisol, the stress hormone, in your bloodstream. And it's important to choose to spend your energy on things you can change that are worth the effort instead of spending your energy on things you really don't care about.